computer. Good. Excellent. So any questions, anybody, related to what we have covered so far, or otherwise related to interviews or a data analyst profile or anything else that I can help with?
Sir, actually, I have a personal data set problem question. So can I ask that?
Sure, go ahead.
So can I share my screen? I can show you the.
Yeah, it's not a very long question, right? Like
no, sir, I just, is that I have an Excel sheet and I just want to know.
Let's have a look.
Yes. Yes, sir. So this is actually Excel sheet and it's basically for HR data. It is.
Okay.
And I basically want to know what are the major metrics that I can show in the dashboard for it. Like we have employee status, we have performance score, we have satisfaction score, we have employee survey.
Come to the beginning. I'll start from the beginning.
Okay, sir. Yes.
Okay. The very first thing you do is headcount, what we call HC, right? Headcount is nothing but the number of employees. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If you have a column that also tells you active or terminated, then you can also look at active employees and terminated employees, right?
Yes,
no,
sir,
don't go so far. First, show me the columns. The date of birth is employee name. Of course, will not do anything. Designation will give you different cuts. Department will give you different cuts. So you can say that there are how many unique departments are there, right? And you will say how many unique designations are there. And then within each department, what is the total headcount? So if I say which department has the highest proportion, so you might say that production has 50% of my headcount. IITs has only 10% of my headcount, right? Date of birth will be used. By the way, the data is not clean. You will have to clean the data in column E. Once you clean the data, then you can find out the age of people, which is very important from a hiring perspective. Because if you see, there are people who have joined in 1974, right? Now, these people don't really have a lot of time before retirement. So that is where you will say that there is a succession planning. So you will say how much time is left to retirement. And then, of course, what is the average age of the employee within the organization? Typically, we look at 20, 25, 25, 35, 35, 50, 50 plus, but that depends on each organization. Column F, you look at the gender diversity, female versus male, and you will do this for every department and every designation as well, right? Let's go to the right. The citizenship race we can ignore. Then the marital status is not super important, but organizations do present it in the HR MIS, even though it's not very relevant to us. In certain profiles, it is important to know if it is single or married. You know why? Because if it's a profile where people can be moved to a different location, and if the person is married, there is a different factor that comes into play, no? Because if you're married and you have kids, it's not easy to relocate to a different location. Single, it's easier. It's easier to shift somebody to a different location, right? Go on. Okay, recruiting source is obvious. It will tell you from where are people being recruited. And the spend, you can look at the average, maximum spend, minimum spend, standard deviation, variance. So all your descriptive statistics. You can look at the quartile, you can look at the percentile. So you can say that people who are older, you have the age, right? So if you say that people who are older, above the age of 45, what is the average recruiting spend? I don't know the denomination here. Is it 8 lakhs or some other unit of measurement? But if we say that people above the age of 45, we typically have to spend more money to recruit them, which makes sense, right? Because I will have to go to a headhunter. I'll have to pay money to Naukri to hire those people, right? Date of hire, of course, tells you the tenure of the person. So that's what we call it, the tenure, right? So how long have people been working with the company? Okay, do you see column Q? This will help you calculate the headcount. So in the first column, you had that ID. This will help you understand that out of that, let's say 1,000 people, how many are active employees and terminated with cause. So we call them regrettable and non-regrettable. That is the industry term. Regrettable means people who left, but you did not want them to leave. That's a regrettable exit. If somebody has been voluntarily terminated, most likely it is non-regrettable, right? Regrettable usually happens that I'm a senior person and I decide to go to a different company. The company did not want me to go because I'm a senior guy, right? But I went for a better salary or whatever. That's a regrettable. Typically, when a company fires me, we call it non-regrettable. That means the company doesn't mind too much that they had to fire me. Okay. Date of termination will also give you the tenure, so the people who have, some are active. So if somebody joined on 30th March and left on 16 June, you know that they have worked for what, 15 months, right? So you can find out the average. You can say on an average, how much time are people spending in the organization? Term reason is again very important to find out why are people moving out. This will also require some data cleaning, because here you will not have 5 or 6 responses. You will have many different responses. So you will have to do some factor reduction. So you will have to classify these responses into maybe 6, 7, 10 types to find that. Also, if you look at the performance score, it's very important to see that are people who are leaving the organization, how many of them were at fully meets expectation, exceeds expectation. Because somebody who's an exceed expectation, if you look at row number 2, right? That is an excellent employee, correct? Now, if that person was, if the person said voluntarily terminated, that's a very bad thing, because that means the person was performing very well and you want to retain good people, right? But the person said, I want to go to a different job, right? That's a problem area. You want to reduce the number of exceeds who are voluntarily leaving the organization, right? Just go to the right. Salary, of course, min, max, standard deviation, variance you will do. Engagement surveys, these are all scores, right? So same descriptive statistics. So on a scale of 5, you say, I'll show you a few examples as well today. Move on.
So it's the end.
Oh, that's it. So you got an idea, right?
Yes,
About what it is. I'll just share something with you. What did I open? 1 second. Hold on. Why am I not able to cancel this? Give me a second. Okay. I'm working with a friend of mine who's working with eBay right now. And I'll just share something with you. Her name is Neha. No, not Neha. Neha is at Jubilant. Bhumika. She's doing a course with TIS on HR. Let me just see if it's like a confidential file or if I can send it across to you. Let me see. No, I guess I can send it to you. I'll just show you what it is. I'll also send it to you. So these are different KPIs, different metrics we look at in HR. So we have the aging salary survey data. We have the annual incentive plan. We have benchmarking. They, of course, use the Black-Scholes model. Then there's something very important called the Compa Ratio. Compa Ratio means that if in my company, I'm getting, let's say, 30 lakhs, right? But with the same experience in the same industry, another company is paying 40 lakhs, then I'm behind the industry average or the median. That makes sense, right? It's like an MBA placement. You say that the top 100 B schools in the country, on average, are getting a certain amount, but you guys are getting a little higher or a little lower. That's called the Compa. We usually call it the Compa. Compa ratio is basically the employee salary divided by the midpoint of that industry. And then again, you can see we have the compensation mix. Then we have, what else should I show you? Some linear regression. Then we have gender pay gap, right? Then, I mean, it's very detailed what all I have here. So this will help you understand the different metrics that we use. There's a lot of it, right? That is written here. I'll just send it across. Wait. This will help, right? This is sort of what you were looking for.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay, so let me come to the chat window. And okay, what I've done is I've kept it on my desktop, right? Right after the session is over, I'll upload it on, I've given you a Dropbox link. No? How did I share the files with all of you? On Dropbox, correct?
Yes, sir, via Dropbox.
So let me put it on Dropbox right away. I'll share one more thing with you. Wait. So training and MDI March, right? And I'm going to share this. How do I share it? I only have one hand free. 1 second. Desktop and this one. I also did a 1-month training for the HR team of Adani Power a month back. So what I did was I collect, of course, that's confidential. I can't send it to you or share it with you, but I collated a lot of different HR reports in one place, right? I'll just send that to you as well. Hold on. Let me just see how I find it. So I must have sent it to Parmanand, I think. Okay, I can't really find anything. To Parmanand. PowerPoint dashboard samples. I think this is the one. Do you see this? These are 54 different HR dashboards. So they will give you an idea in two ways. One is in terms of how to present it visually using Power BI. The other is what type of metrics you should look at, what sort of KPIs you should look at. So I'll just share this as well. HR really excites me because a lot of my work is in HR analytics, right? Let me try and show something to you as well. Just give me a moment. What can I show you? Wait. So let me show you this, then we'll continue with the training as well, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you the Pratik deck. Please look at this. Right, so this is a proper HR dashboard. I have my headcount, average age, diversity percentage. That means for every, for every 100 men, there are only 12.15 women, right? Attrition percentage, right? This is typically the annualized attrition. Then we have the headcount by gender, age-wise distribution, location-wise, grade-wise. This is what I was telling you, right? Overall, regrettable. So people who are not performing and were sacked, that's okay. People who are performing well and you want to retain them, but they are moving, that's regrettable. You don't want that to happen. This is my new joiners. We typically look at new joiners to understand the hiring process as well, right? What else can I show you? So this is my CTC. So I can see at each grade, what is the number of people headcount in each salary bracket. For example, the number on the left will become higher. Okay, so at M1, you will notice that there are two people. The data is not it's sanitized. It's not real data, but you get the idea. So I can see the number of people with 40 to 50 lakhs, 30 to 40, so on and so forth. Then I have my location. So obviously, I want to see how many people do I have posted at different locations in the country. So you can see I can just click, and I can also expand, right, like this. So I can just click on, let's say, Maharashtra or Gujarat, and I can see within Gujarat, in each city, how many people are there. Right? Then I can do it at the plant level, right, like that. Next, we have a joining data. So I'm seeing the number of people that have joined the organization. Then I'm looking at the attrition. So the number of people who are leaving the organization, right? Then I have, these are the formulas, by the way, so this annualized attrition is quite a complex calculation like this, right? I mean, this is all DAX, so I'll not really get into detail here, but this was quite complex. There were many moving parts in it, but basically what we were looking at was the number of people working reduced by the number of people that left, adding the number of people that joined, dividing by the number of months in the financial year, and then multiplying by 12, right? That's what we were doing here. But the reason it is so complex is also because our model was very complex. You can see that the data was not coming from one person, right? It's not that there is one HR person who's sending you everything, right? There is somebody who handles the HR MIS. There is somebody who handles CNB, compensation and benefit. Somebody is handling rewards and recognition. Somebody is handling the training data. Somebody else is handling your location expense reports, right? Somebody else is handling the succession planning, right? You have different business partners. We typically call it an HR BP, HR business partner. Then you have your third-party employees, right? So you have services like Adeco, which gives you contractual employees. So you get the data from a lot of different places, from the finance team, from the supply chain team, and then all of it has to be combined into a single model. That's what we were doing here as well. Okay? That is why you notice there are so many different tables that are there, which we have combined. This was a CTC data. So in fact, this would make sense as well. I did this project for them a while back. So if you look at 2020, the year COVID happened, do you see this? Do you see how in 2018, this was the CTC spend? So they are spending 15 crore on salaries each month. That's what it means. If you look at 2019, it went up, obviously, because you're paying more, people got a bonus, a promotion, hired more people, business expanded. Do you see what happened in April in 2020? COVID hit in March, and immediately you notice that the salary payout started to come down. Why? Because appraisals were stopped. Obviously, business was lost, right? If business suffers, people are not going to get their appraisals on time. People also have to take a pay cut. And I don't know if I should be sharing this or not. Let's just put it like this. I work with a lot of clients. I won't take names, but there's one client I was speaking to the HR head, and he said that we were given a choice. Either senior leadership, right? The guys at the low level don't have any say. It's the senior guys who decide. So they said that you either we have to let some people go, right? Or everybody takes a pay cut. And they decided that everybody takes a pay cut. So that year, nobody got a promotion, irrespective of your performance in the last 12 months, right? And everybody took a pay cut so that they're able to retain people. Otherwise, what would have happened is that if I don't give an appraisal, I mean, if I sack somebody, they will also go away, they'll join some other place. No, but I will suffer in the long term because then I have to hire people and everything is difficult, right? That's also a process in itself. So there are very interesting angles. One other example I'll give you is not an incentive, but salary appraisal. So I was working with a client and the client said that, Havish, we have a problem. A lot of people have done well, right? So their ratings have been 80, 85, 90 out of 100. But we only have 18 crores. I'm giving you the exact number. They say we only have 18 crores to give as the additional, the salary increase, okay? And that's it. You know, our board has only approved 18 crores. We can't give more money than that. But the problem is that people have done very well. Now, if people have done well, they will expect that I'm going to get a 17, 18% hike, isn't it? But we can't give a 17, 18% because we don't have that much money to give. So we had to figure out a way in which we had to do some moderation of the score. Now, the question is, how do you go and tell a person you have done well, but I'm not going to give you an increase, right? So what we came up with, the idea that we came up with was that we will say that you have to look at your appraisal on the basis of 3 parameters. Number 1, your individual score. In fact, 4 parameters, your individual score. Number 2, your manager's score. So if I'm doing very well, but what about my manager? Because my manager is heading 15 people, my manager also comes under somebody, right? If I got a 90 out of 100, but my manager has only received a 70 out of 100, that will also affect my score. Now, see, you guys might say, but that's unfair. Why should I be affected by my manager's score? But that's just the way the corporate works, right? They make their own rules. Then they say that the manager will be affected by that business unit. So if I've got a 90 out of 100, my manager has a 92 out of 100, but the overall business unit has only done 80, we will find the weighted average. And then finally, at the organization level. Now, see, at the organization level, everybody has done well because the organization is growing, right? So you can't change that. But what you can change is the cuts that you keep. So we kept 4 levels because we realized after a lot of simulations that by making this 4 breakup, we realized that we're able to reduce the amount of incentive or rather the increased salary that we have to give out. I hope you were able to follow that example. It was a very complex project. Many people were working on it, but then I just thought I'll share it with you. Any questions on this, anyone?
So, sir, my question, this is sort of mine. Sir, my question is that in such circumstances, like how do you moderate it? Like if it is like the organization's level is doing a good score and the SBU is not working good at all, so that will impact the manager's score, right? And the manager's compensation will also be.
See, as a SBU, I might have done very well, but that doesn't mean that if there are 5 managers in that SBU, everybody has done equally well, no?
Right.
I'll give you an example. Let us say we are looking at Kia Seltos, right? Now, Kia Seltos, we know is doing very well, but does it mean that Kia Seltos is doing well in all the 4 parts of the country, north, south, east, and west? Of course not. Maybe in the south, it sold much more. Maybe in north, it did very well. Maybe in west, it did not do well. Maybe there was a different brand that was doing better. Now, overall, Kia Seltos as a brand is doing exceptionally well. But each manager's performance individually is also dependent, right? It also depends on that region that they belong to. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Right? And see, this is how you work in the corporate, right? It's not just about your performance. There are many other factors that come into play as well. Like when I was working with Reckitt, I was handling Big Bazaar. So I was handling modern trade outlets, Kirana stores, modern trade. I was handling Big Bazaar, Tesco, More, Heritage, like that. But the key, we call it the CAM, right? Key Accounts Manager. So the CAM for Big Bazaar is not just doing Big Bazaar in Chennai. I was in Chennai. He's handling Big Bazaar for the entire country, right? So I might have done very well in Chennai because my base was small and I grew 100%. Maybe other Big Bazaars did not do well, right? So everybody's performance will be measured and it's all interconnected, no? Because if I'm in sales and I'm handling 50 different products, so I'm handling Harpic, Wheat, Colin, Disprin, Airwick. Of course, each brand will not do equally well, right? But then each product has a brand manager. Then there are category managers also. Then there are key accounts managers also. There are regional managers also. There are area sales managers also. So that is where the modeling comes in, no? Because everything is interconnected. It's not that easy to say, okay, you met the target or you did not meet the target. There are many other factors that will come into play. Right? Cool. Any other question, anyone? Let me try and see, since we are talking about it, if I can show you an old file of mine. See, the problem is I can't show you anything from my current work because it's all very confidential, right? So I can't even show it to you, but let me try to find something from old data sets from my term at Reckitt, which I can show to you. Hold on. Give me a second. If I'm not able to find something in a minute, then I'll not do it. 1 second. Sorry, the colors are really bad. Let me just change the colors. Okay, let's do this example as well. Remember the incentive plan Excel example we did, where I showed you that the achievement has to be more than incentive. Between the product A and the product B, at least one of them has to be met. The tenure has to be more than 2 years. This is something like that. So if you notice, this is all actual data, okay? So in a hyper store, so we usually categorize Big Bazaars as a daily, a super, and a hyper, depending on the size of that store. Dailies are the smaller ones. Then you have a hyper and then you have a super, right? Like that. Okay, anyway, so here you notice that we have 3 targets. These are visibility assets. When you go to a Big Bazaar, you see those counters, no? Those alligators, and that near the billing counter, you have that rack where products are displayed. That is what there are different terms for those things. So this is a TOT file, which is called terms of trade, which means that in Sarajpur, Hyper, and Bangalore, we have to put an end cap, we have to put a FSD, we have to put a 4-way browser as well, right? Just to show you what an end cap looks like. An end cap looks like this. I'm sure you must have seen it, right? So when you go to a store and at the end of an aisle, like this, at the end of an aisle, they have this display, right? Which is it's a display plus you can purchase from there. That is called an end cap. So this is like one of those targets that for each store, you notice that the targets are different, right? Like this. So that's how we create these files. Let me just try and show something else to you. One moment. Actually, I don't want to look at 2012 because by that time I had left. So let me try to show you a different one. Just give me a second. Okay, I think this one will be good. Okay, this is a PowerPoint, but never mind. Let me show it to you. I guess you can, learn something from this. So KSR is a key account sales representative. These are the guys who go to stores and take the order. I'm sure you must have seen that, right? When you go to a Kirana store and there's a guy with a diary or now a phone who says how much you want 5 units of this and 10 units of that. That's a KSR. So here you notice that we were giving This is exactly like that example I did. At 100% achievement, they get let's say 2,000 rupees, 103% they get 3,000 rupees, 105% they get 10,000 rupees. Then there is a focus product, which means there is an individual target for both the products also. So they have to focus on Harpic and Lysol in 1 month, Airwick and Mortein in a different month. Like this, we are calculating their earning potential. So at most, a person can earn 65,600, like that. Right? Now, see, mostly these things you will never be able to see because this is all confidential, right? So, I mean, this is like 10 years old, so there's no problem sharing it with you. But when you do your internships and when you do live projects and all, you might get access to these type of files. Otherwise, you will never find these type of files on Kaggle and stuff like that, right? So, like this is, I'm not sure what it is. This is my net tax gross. Anyway, not important. Okay, cool. So let's quickly recap what we had done yesterday. Let me open MDI and 23rd March. This is the file, right? Yeah. Just give it 10 seconds, okay? So far we have done Q&A, which is question and answer. We have looked at, we have created a first dashboard, which is, we have a map with the state and the city. We have 2 cards. We have a slicer, we have another slicer, we have a Q&A, and we have an area chart. Here we also created a tooltip, which means there is a chart on top of another chart. After that, we have the donut chart, right? Like this. Now this has up to 3 levels with the free version. With the paid version, you will have no number of levels. You can have infinite number of levels. And then we also did our Dax expression, which is a Dax measure, for which we went to new measure, right? And what we did here was we had our sales and our profit. We wanted to calculate the profit margin. So we said sum of profit divided by sum of sales. Why have I written fact underscore sales and fact underscore sales? That is the name of the table, right? You have to do that. And this is a measure. So you see the icon is also a little different like this, right? Okay. After this, we also created the QOQ change, a little more complex. I wanted to see the change from one quarter to the next. And how we did this was we said one variable is current quarter, which is calculate sum of sales. That means what is the sum of sales for Q2? 4,80,000. But I would like to subtract the sum of sales for the previous quarter, which is 3,38,000. How do I find that? How do I find 3,38,000? I said calculate the sum of sales just like before, but minus 1 quarter. That means shift the date by 1 quarter. And finally, we said current minus previous divided by previous. But remember, we have to make a date table for this. That's why you notice we had to create a date table like this. I simply wrote date table is equal to calendar auto, and we had to connect it like this. So the order date is connected to the date, and this is a must. So I showed you the official Microsoft website to tell you that you have to do it, because if you want to do calculations related to date and time, then this has to be done, right? And once the date table is created, then you can run date and time calculations. And what else did we do? We also did the scatter chart in which we kept the region, sales, profit, market, profit margin, and the month. And when I click on the play button, it shows me the change month by month, right? Okay, first let me know if you have any questions so far, and then we'll continue. And just give me 1 minute. I just have to make a quick call, right? Just 60 seconds. I'll be back. Think of the questions you want to ask, and I'll join you in 60 seconds. Sorry, everyone. Back. Yep. Any questions? Just see, is there anything that you would like to ask? All good? All right. So what I want to do with you today is, just give me a second. We did not do Power Query yesterday, right? Or did we? I'm sorry, just if you can just remind me once.
No, sir, we didn't do power. No, sir.
So combining multiple files, we hadn't done that, right?
Yes, sir.
Did we, okay, I'll just tell you what I'm trying to ask. Did we do this example where I said that there are 3 files and we have to combine all the 3 files?
No, sir.
We did not, right? I'm sorry, I'm doing 3 sessions parallelly. So I got a little confused. Okay, perfect. So I have shown you data visualization. We have seen a few charts. You've seen the Q&A feature. You've seen the tooltip. Of course, there are many other things in Power BI. We can't practically cover all of it, but I've given you an idea, right? So you have a sense of what Power BI is, how it works. How does DAX work? So how does the DAX formula look like this? So visually, it is very similar to Excel, but the functions are different, right? So you have a calculate, divide, date add. You don't have all this on Excel, right? But you do. Remember, you have this on Excel also using Power Pivot. I'll explain that later. Okay, now I want to show you something new called Power Query, right? So I want to close this file. Please open a new Power BI file, everyone. Don't work on the current one. Please open a new one. Open a new Power BI file. right? Okay. So let me first tell you what the problem is. We have worked with a single Excel file that we did in the previous example, but this time we are going to work with multiple files, right? So the problem is this one. You have to go to the Power BI folder, and you will notice that there are many files and folders in this folder. Let me explain what all of this is. First, we have the historical sales, which is the sales for 3 years. So I have the sales for 2011, 2012, and 2013. Okay, 2011, 2012, 2013. The template is exactly the same. That means that we have the same, if you notice, we have the same 21 columns, right? And there are 9,000 rows. If I show you the second file for 2012, it would be 21 columns again, and we have 10,900 rows, right? Like this. Similarly, we have the data for 2013 as well. Now, the objective is that I want to combine all these three files because it's the same data, right? 2011, 2012, and then 2013. Now, if you had to do this on Excel, obviously there is no other method other than open all the three files, copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste, correct? So that's what we want to know. What is it that we should do, right? We want to combine all the three files into a single file, right? So let's see how to do this in Power BI. Please open Power BI, everyone. And make sure you keep the folder handy with you because, we will have to select that folder. So make sure the folder is unzipped. It should not be zipped, and you know where the folder is, right? All right. So first, we want to go to Get Data. And we don't want to select to any of these options. So we have Excel, Power BI, Dataverse, SQL Server. We don't want this. We want to go to More. And we will select Folder. Okay. So we go to Get Data, More, and then Folder. Once you select the folder, it will ask you for the path of that folder. So I'm going to browse. My files are on my desktop. So I'm just going to select MDI files, Power BI, and please make sure not to select the incorrect folder. Don't select the entire Power BI folder, only select sales historical, right? Only select sales historical. Sales historical. And click on OK. And OK one more time. Now this will confirm to you that there are three files in that folder. So we have 2011, 2012, and 2013, right? 2011, 2012, and 2013. Now we want to combine all the three files. So we go to Combine and select the first option, which is Combine and Transform. And there is one final step which says that which is the sheet that you want to select and which is the file that you want to make the sample file. Now, it is asking us that do you want 2011 to be the sample file, 2012 to be the sample file, or 2013 to be the sample file? Can somebody tell me which one should be the sample file?
The latest one.
Right. Now, any one of them can be the sample file because all of them have the same template, right? Now you might say, but if they are not the same template, how will we combine them? I will come to that point later. But for now, I'm going to choose the default, which is 2011. See, all the three files have exactly the same template, isn't it? They all have 21 columns in the same order with the same spelling. So it doesn't matter which one is the sample file. But when you're working with unclean data, when there are certain issues with the file, then you will see the relevance of this sample file. But for now, don't worry about it. Don't change anything. Just go to sales, which is the name of the sheet, and press OK. And when you do that, you will notice that it will open a new window for you. And this window is called the Power Query Editor. You might have to press Alt Tab to view this window, the Power Query Editor. And in the first column, you can see that if I click on Load More, all the 3 files are there, 2011, 2012, and 2013.
Sir, I only have 2011.
Yeah, do you see a Load More button here in blue color?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just click on that.
Yes, sir. Now.
Is it working?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cool. I hope it's working for everyone. Just think about what we have done and tell me if you have any questions. So I have a few questions for you. While you're thinking of what to ask me, let me ask you. So I prepared a small quiz for everyone. And let's see. Okay, so we know what we are doing. We are combining multiple Excel files from a folder, right? I'm going to ask you, we know what it is, right? So we have 3 rows, another 2 rows, we are putting them one below the other. Now I want to show you, or rather present to you, different situations, and I want you to tell me what will happen, right? Okay, first, if file A, B, and C, there are 3 files, each file has 3 columns, the same order, the same spelling. Will it work? Guys?
Yes, sir. It should
Of course, right? That's the best possibility. This is an ideal scenario like the one we had, where we said, okay, there are 3 files, each file has 3 columns, each column has the same name, the same spelling, the same order, right? Of course it will work, which we just saw, will work perfectly. What about now? There are 3 files, okay? There are 3 files, but the problem is that the data is not starting on A1, it is starting on B5 in all the 3 files. File number 1 starting at B5, file number 2 starting at B5, file number 3 starting at B5. That means that it is not correct. It is not on A1, it is on B5, but it is uniform. So what do you think will happen? Will it work or not work?
Should work, sir.
Yes.
work.
It works perfectly, right? Now, ideally, you should not do this, because why would you want to have your data on B5? It should be on A1, isn't it? But it's good to know that by chance, if your data is not on A1, right, it will still work. Okay, what about now? You have 3 files, 3 columns, same name of the column, but the order is different. We have ID category sales, ID category sales, ID sales in category. So what do you think will happen?
Sir, if we are referencing it like we did in in measure option, like with the name of the table, then in the brackets the name of the column, then it will work perfectly, sir. Because we just have to reference the column names. It doesn't matter which order they are.
No, but see, you are moving a little ahead. Before we go to the measure point, we first have to combine all the 3, right? So we will only get one table after we combine them. So when you say that, sir, when we look at the measure, when we look at the table and the column, but there are not 3 tables, because we're combining everything into a single table, isn't it?
Yes,
See,
sir.
in my Power BI report, if I can show all of you, 1 second. In my Power BI table, do you see what happened? It is not giving me 3 tables. It is only giving me 1 table, sales historical, which has all the 3 files in it, right? So now tell me, what do you think will happen? Just whatever your instinct says, yes or no. What do you think? Will it work or not work?
No sense.
Sir, I think it will work
Perfectly.
because
It will work
we have
perfectly.
choose that combine and transform, so it will transform the files.
Right. So what it does is that even if the order of columns is different, it doesn't care, right? What it will do is it will pull the sales column. How do I show it to you? Just give me a second. Let me turn on my annotation tool. Okay. It will put sales below sales. It will put category below category. It only looks at the heading, right? It doesn't care about the position of the column, which is very handy to know. So it works perfectly. What about now? The column is the same, but there is a spelling issue. One says S with a capital, one says S with a small. What will happen?
Sir, it should not be a problem because they will be combining the same at
Yeah, but
they're
it doesn't
also the
work.
same category.
Yeah, but it doesn't work because to Power Query, case sensitivity matters. In Excel, it doesn't matter usually, but in Power Query, case matters. If you have the same spelling, but you have an uppercase and a lowercase, to Power Query, they are different columns, right? So you have to be very careful about this. It will not work, but you can do a customized approach. So you'll have to write a few formulas manually and make some changes for it to work, but by default, it will not work. How to do it with a customized approach, I'll tell you later. There is a video I have created on it. I'll share that with you. Okay, what about now? Column spelling is completely different. I think this is an
Will not
easy
work,
one.
but
It's an easy
yeah,
one. If this was not
yes.
working, even with a different case, of course, this one will not work, but there is a way to do it, which I'll tell you later. Okay, what about now? There is a column that is missing. We have 3 files. The first 2 files have 3 columns. The third file only has 2 columns in it. What do you think will happen?
Sir, I think it will work.
It works, and what happens here at this point?
So that will be blank, I guess.
Okay, so there is no concept of a blank in Power Query. We call it a null, okay? With a right aligned capital null. Null basically means it's a blank cell. See, in Excel, we have a blank, right? If I press delete on a cell, what happens? It becomes blank. In Power Query, we don't have the concept of a blank. We have a null, which is the same thing. What about now? In this one, we had a missing column. In this one, we have an additional column in one of the files. So what will happen?
So the file A and file B will have null.
No, no. If I choose file A as the sample, then what will happen to profit?
It will be discarded.
Exactly. It will be discarded. If you want to take the profit column also, then which file should be the sample file? Now do all of you see the relevance of that sample file option? A lot of people say, but why do we have a sample file option? If all the files are the same, then it doesn't matter. But if the files are not the same, then it does matter. In this case, what will you do? You will choose the file that has the larger number of columns in it. So when you choose file C as a sample, then A and B will have null values. Okay, let's move on. What do you do when 2 columns have the same name? This is a very common Excel problem. Like I have Q1 sales quantity, Q2 sales quantity, right? Now, if 2 columns have the same name, of course, it does not require a customized approach, but it will change the column name. So the first quantity will become quantity and the second one will become quantity_1. It does it automatically. If there is another column called quantity, it will become quantity_2. Because in Power Query, like a database, you can't have 2 columns with the same name. In Excel, it doesn't matter. I can have 5 columns and all the 5 columns can be called sales, 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 sales. But you can't do that in Power Query, right? Okay. Sometimes you also have 2 headers, right? Like this. This obviously requires a customized approach. Okay, what about hidden sheets? If the 2 files have visible sheets, but the third file has a hidden sheet, what do you think will happen?
So will it depend on the sample file? Like if we select file C, the visible sheets of file A and B will get discarded. And if we choose A and B, the
Yeah,
hidden
so
sheet would also.
interestingly, hidden sheets are not a problem. If you choose file A as the sample file, even though the sheet is hidden, it will still pick the data from it, right? Now you can call it a good or a bad thing, I don't know, but then this is how it works. Okay, what about the sheet is visible, right? There is only one sheet, but the name of the sheet is different. Will it work or not work?
So will it work with customized approach? Like,
It doesn't work. I mean, of course, it works with the customer. Everything works with the customized approach, but by default, it doesn't work. But you can always use the position number. You can say that don't go to the sheet called sheet A, go to the first sheet in my workbook, right? Okay, what about hidden files? What if the file itself is hidden from that folder? What will happen there? Okay, I'll just speed up a little bit. By default, it does not get picked up, but you can choose to pick it up as well. But by default, the hidden file will never get picked up. If the sheet is protected, it will work. But if the workbook is protected, you get an error. It will not work. So once again, if the sheet is protected, it works. Okay. Even if the sheet is protected, it will still pick the data. But if the file is protected, then it will not work. This is the error that you will get. If there are subfolders, like one folder has two folders, each folder has files, it works perfectly. If one file has multiple sheets in it, it works with a customized approach. If there are multiple sheets and multiple workbooks, that also works with a customized approach. Now the question is, where do you find all these magical customized approaches that I was talking about, right? For this, you have to go to a YouTube video that I have. Let me share that with you. It's a 1-hour video. All the files have been given to you. I've also explained the steps one by one. Let me just show you. So Power BI, and it is called Combine Multiple Excel Files, this one. So it is called Combine Multiple Excel Files. And I've taken the 17 different examples, right, that I showed you. I've taken all these 17 examples, and then one by one, I'm discussing all of these things. How do you handle that problem, right? The chapters have also been created. So if you're only looking at one particular problem, you can always do that, right? I'll just share this with you. Great. Any other question or any other situation that you can think of and you might want to ask me?
Yes, sir. So if you said in the example that it was shown that if we have a protected sheet, it will still pick up the data, but if the workbook is protected, it would not.
Correct.
Right. So if we have a protected sheet, there is a reason for it being protected, right? It is supposedly if I am working on the sheet, I'm not supposed to get access to the data. So my question is,
I know, but Microsoft also says that if you use the encryption on Excel, that is not a reliable level of encryption.
Yes, sir. What I actually mean is that if we then use it, import it into Power BI, we'll still have access to the entire data, right? We'll be able to see it.
Correct. Let me see if I can show you an example. Wait. I'll do it right in front of you, okay? So I'm putting in some data here. I hope I can show it. So I will go to Review and Protect Sheet. I'll just put a password. Right? And as you can see, I can't make changes. I'll save it. The thing is that they also keep on changing these rules, right? So, but it would not work, right? But I'll still show you once again. So let me go to Excel workbook. I will select desktop and temp. Sheet 1, load. See, I protect the sheet right in front of you, isn't it? See, I can read the data.
Okay. So And then if we use other encryption software, that will automatically protect the entire workbook. So
even on Excel, you can do a protection on the file. So like when you're working on a file, I can always go to, like once I create a file, I can go to file and then info, and I can apply a encrypted
that
password.
means this is the entire workbook, right? The entire workbook gets protected. I'm saying that, for example, if we want to apply, this is of course a little off the topic. What I actually mean is that if we want to have a file have a sheet that is protected from being imported into Power BI, are there any external tools or something that we can do about it? By any chance?
I can't think of anything. It might be. It's even though it's unlikely, because any Excel encryption tool would typically encrypt the entire file. Encryption doesn't really happen
Yes.
at a sheet level. Encryption always happens at a file level, right? But I'll just still try to find it. There's one software which is available. I cannot remember the name of that tool. 1 second. Let me check. I'll have to. I mean, I can't remember. Even though there are, see, what do hackers do? This is what we do know. Even if you protect it with encryption, there is still something called a hex editor. Excel is not supposed to be a secure file, right? So hex editors also allow you to crack files that have been encrypted, right? So, I mean, to what extent are you encrypting it? I don't know. But then hex editor is meant to basically break those level of encryption as well.
I understand. I know this is probably a little off topic. I just wanted to.
No, it's always good to know. Nothing is off topic completely, but yeah. Great. Anything else? Anyone? Any other question? Just take a minute, think about it. If there's anything else that you would like to ask. Good. All right. So we have been working on Power Query, right? And as you can see, I have my 3 years of data that has been combined. So 11, 12, 13. This is called sales historical. Let it be like that. Now, Power Query uses a completely different language called M, just the letter M. How does it look and where do you see the formula? You can see that there is a formula bar, right? And if you would like to see the entire list of formulas that have been written, the entire code behind it, I can also click on Advanced Editor, right? And you can see the entire code here. I will not be able to get into too much detail here because it's a completely different language, right? It is very, very different to how Excel works. Dax is quite similar to Excel. This is very different to Excel, right? So, I mean, you have my YouTube channel and you can watch content. I've given you access to the courses where I explain all this in detail. But then, this is not really something I can explain in 5 minutes. And you don't really need to learn all this right now. I mean, just start your journey with Power Query, and then over a period of time, you can start to work with it, right? Cool. Now, let me close and apply, everybody. Let us close and apply. Close and apply will confirm what you have done in Power Query, and it will send the data back to Power BI. So if you notice, it will send the data back to Power BI. So you can see that we have one file which has the 3 years of data in it. But now we need to repeat the process once because I would like to just give me a moment. Okay, because I would like to select this current sales folder as well, which has only one file in it. Now you might say, but why are we selecting the folder if there is only one file in it? Because I might add another file in it in the future. That's why we have created a separate folder called sales current, right? Even though there is only one file in it, we will not select the Excel file separately. We will do combined from folder, right? So one more time, I go to get data and I will select folder and we will select browse and then OneDrive, then MDI, I'm sorry, not OneDrive, MDI files, Power BI, and then sales current, okay? And click on OK. One more time, OK. So I know it looks a little funny because there's only one file in it, but I hope you see the reason behind it. Yes, there is only one file right now, but I might add more files in the future, right? So we are selecting the entire folder and we go to combine and transform. So now you notice that there are two queries or two tables that we have. Once I select the sheet in Power Query, there are two tables we have. The first table is my historical sales and the second table is my current sales. Now, can somebody go through both of these and tell me, are they exactly the same or is there something different between both the files? The layout of the file, okay? Just take 2 minutes and observe carefully and tell me if there is any difference and if so, what is the difference?
Sir, one of the differences I see is with the order ID. So order ID in historical, it was actually combined into one.
Correct.
Like
And in the current,
India, there are two parts, part one, part two. Sorry, part three.
three parts, right? Okay, that's one. What are the other differences? Not be too difficult to find.
Sir, another is the city, state, and country. It's actually combined in one, and another
Correct.
there are three columns.
So in historical, the order ID is all combined, right? And if you look at the city, state, and the country, they're in three separate columns, correct? In the current, both are wrong. The order ID is in three parts, which should not be the case. It should be combined. And if you look at the city, state, and the country, they are all combined, which actually should be into three columns. Make sense, everybody? Now, can you tell me why would an error like this happen? You know, sometimes people say, but why are you showing us an error? Like, why would in one file it be in three column and in another file it will be in one column? Can somebody tell me?
Is it the way that it was written in Excel?
It is the way in what?
Like CSV format, maybe the certain countries were.
No standardized format or something like that.
Yeah, so, this is a very common challenge. We always say that 80% of the time that we spend as a data analyst or when we work in data visualization is to clean the data, prepare the data. This is what we mean by cleaning data. Cleaning doesn't mean removing errors. These are also errors in a way, right? Where the data is not uniform. Now, why does it happen? Lots of reasons. Maybe the person left, there's a new person who came in. The person did not realize they configured the system in a way that everything was combined. Now, would you say that this is a problem? Sure, but no data is missing, right? There is no data missing. There is no data that is incorrect. It is just the way the data has been presented that it is different, right? But these are very common issues. And that is why you have to learn how to do all of this. So let me first come to order ID. Now we want to merge everything, correct? So what do? I select order ID part 1, press Control, select order ID part 2, and press Control, press order ID part 3, like this. So order ID part 1, part 2, and part 3. Okay, once you have done that, we want to merge everything, right? So we will right click and we will select merge columns. Now remember, we have to follow the same format that was there in the historical data. So can somebody tell me what should be the separator when we merge everything?
Comma.
Not a comma. Look again.
Sir, it was hyphens, right?
Exactly. It should be a custom separator, which will be a hyphen or a dash, right? What do you want to call the new column?
Order ID, sir.
Order ID, right? So we call it order ID. So what we are doing here is that we are making both the files the same. And when I click on OK, now you notice there's only one column called order ID. And here also you have one column called order ID. Make sense? Right?
It's taking some time for me, sir.
No problem. Also, guys, sorry for the little bit of to and fro on the communication. So we were planning a 2.5 hour, then a 1.5 hour. We will stick to the 2+2. I hope that's okay with everyone. What we had originally planned. I also, last minute changes, I got a little confused. So originally we said we'll do 1.5 hours, then we said 2.5 hours. Then, if I can request everyone, let's stick to what we had, because my calendar will get, because I have work post 12 also, so it will get a little messed up. So we'll stick to what we originally had. I hope that's okay with everyone. Thank you so much. All good, everybody? Let's now do the other one. Now, the other problem is that I have my city, state, and country in a single column, but I don't want that. I would like to split it into 3 columns. Now we do the opposite. First, we had done merge. Now I will right click and I will say, which one should we select?
So split columns, there's an option for split.
Correct. And split column by what?
By delimit, by positions.
Delimiter. Position means
delimiter.
Every 5th character, every 10th character, but the length of the name is not the same, right? So we will select by delimiter. Can somebody tell me what should be the delimiter?
Yes, comma, sir.
Just a comma or a comma and something else?
Comma space.
Comma and a space.
Comma
Right?
and
That's the difference, right?
space.
It's not just a comma. It has to be, if I go to custom, I will select a comma followed by a space, right? Like this. So these are the small things that you have to pay attention to. Otherwise, what will happen, if you only put a comma, then an extra space will come. It might create some problems in your formulas, right? So it has to be a comma followed by a space. If you click on OK, you notice that now you get 3 columns: city, state, country. We of course have to rename it. So city, state, and country. Any questions, anyone? Okay. So we notice that there are 22 columns in both the files. Now, what do we want to do? Anyone? So we have one query which has the current sales. We have another query that has the historical sales. What do you want to do after this?
Do we probably want to predict the future sale?
No, say that again. We want to.
Predict. Do we want to predict the future sales
No.
based
Let's
on?
not come into analytics. Let's first look at the data transformation. In terms of the data, would you say that you have the data how you want it in 2 different tables?
No, sir. We should combine it. I think.
One table, correct? So to combine it, what I'll do is I will go to Append Queries. Right, everybody? Append Queries as new. Because I want to combine the historical and the current, right, into a new query which will have all the 4 years in it. So we'll have 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014, right? So we go to Append Queries as new. This part is very simple. All we do is we say 2 tables have to be combined. As you can see, we can combine multiple tables as well. For now, we only have 2 tables. We have sales historical and sales current. Sales historical and sales current. Right? And that's it. Once you click on OK, you will notice that a new table has been created called Append 1. We can always change that name. I'll just call it my complete sales. Right? And if you notice, now we have 11, 12, 13, and 14. And this entire process is completely automated now. So in the future, if I add any file, if I delete any file, if I go to any file and I make any change to any of the data, all I have to do is click on refresh. Right?
So can you please
Show what?
refresh the refresh part, sir?
Here, where my cursor is there.
Yes.
Refresh. You have the same refresh button on Power BI as well. Right?
Oh, yes.
You have it in Power Query as well. You have it on Power BI as well. Cool. Any other question? Good. Okay. So we are happy with what we have. Let us go to close and apply. Right? And I'll do one more example with you, then we'll take a small break. So we have taken one folder which has 3 files in it, 11, 12, 13. We have taken another folder that has one file in it, 2014. In the 2014, we did merge to combine the order ID. We did split to split city, state, country. And then we have appended both the queries, right? But we can append more than 2 as well. But for now, we have appended 2 queries only. Okay. Now, the problem is that we have a separate file for the category. Let me explain what I mean by that. In my data that I have right now, by the way, how do you go back to Power Query? If your Power BI window is open, you go to transform data, right? So if your Power BI window is open and you would like to go to the backend to go to Power Query, then you select transform data like this. At any point while you're working, if you would like to open the backend window, you can click on transform. Let me do that like this. Now here's my problem. In the complete sales query or the table, if I scroll to the right, you will notice that we have the subcategory, right? So we have the chairs, supplies, phone, paper, appliance, like that. But I do not know the category it belongs to. It's like saying that I know we have Alto, Swift, Baleno, SX4, XL6, but I don't know what is the type of car, whether it's a sedan or a hatchback or an SUV, right? So we have the subcategory, which is the child, but we do not have the parent, which is, in this case, the category, right? Now, where is that data? That data has been given to you in a completely different file. So if you notice, we have a file called category, and in this file, we have the 17 subcategories and the category like this. So we can see that 4 of these are in furniture, 9 of these are in office supplies, and then 4 of these are in technology, right? All good. Now, can somebody tell me why is it that the category has been given in a different file and not in the same file? Like, it doesn't make sense, right? Should it not be in the same file?
Sir, this is what I believe is because of the huge data set. Like there will be subcategories. Every office and categories have, I think, 5 or 6 if they have. If there are more subcategories or more categories that are added, so they will actually have to edit the entire big data set and individually, look into those. That way, but if we, I'm thinking, like if we apply a condition that if these are the subcategories, then this will be the category that should be mentioned. If we do something like that, then the entire data set, no matter how.
Correct. That's a valid and an excellent point, which is that you want to make it dynamic so that it's easier to change it in one location. That's one reason. Another reason is that you have different file owners, right? So in the corporate, we always call them a file owner. So there is one person who's responsible for this, typically a brand manager or a category, not a brand manager in this case, but a national manager who's handling the mapping of each category with subcategory, right? Now, because there is a different file owner for this particular data set, what that means is that we don't want to have this in our master data. And think about it, it doesn't make sense because it is going to create redundancy. What is the point of creating another column here which has the category in it? Because that will take some space on your computer, isn't it? You will need to have another column. That column will have 50,000 records in it, which will just have 3 different values. It will have furniture, office supplies, and technology. What is the point? Isn't it easier to have a connected table? Because this is a much smaller data. I have to mention these only 3 or 17 times at most. If I made a column here where I put it 50,000 times, that means you're actually taking more space in your file. And your file is unnecessarily becoming more bloated. It's becoming larger. And obviously, one point is that that file is owned by somebody else. So you can't have everything in one place, because even in an organization, you have silos. So everybody does not have access to the same information. I might only have access to certain information. My other team member might have access to a different information, right? I will give you a live example. Okay. Training data, right? So whenever trainings happen in an organization, we conduct a survey at the end, a feedback, to ask, did you like the trainer? Did you like the content? Do you feel you can apply it to your work, like that? Now, what happens is that when we have the training data, the data is very confidential, because I don't want to share it with everybody, right? Now, you might say, but does that mean that the senior people in the organization also don't have data? Of course not. For example, CTC data, right? The marketing head of a company has no need or no requirement to see the salary that everybody else in the company is getting. Do you get my point? I might be the national manager, right? I might be the national sales head or the marketing head for Unilever, right? I might be one level below the CXO, but that doesn't mean that I will have access to all data points in the company, because it is not relevant to me. Why do I need to know what the CFO is earning and what the CEO is earning? Do you get my point? Who will have access to the data? Only the HR guys, because HR has to work with the CTC, and also the finance guys, because finance also needs to sort of give the salary at the end of each month, right? Now, even in HR and finance, don't expect everybody to have access to it. Only those people who need that data will have access to it. And many times the data is sanitized, or we don't have the mapping. So I will have the salaries, like finance only knows that this code has to be given this salary. They don't know who the code belongs to, because it's confidential data, right? You don't want to disclose to the entire company what numbers are there. Similarly, from a marketing perspective, many times you're running campaigns or you're spending money on advertising. You don't want to let everybody know how much money you're spending. I don't want to tell my sales team how much money I'm spending on advertising, right? And it's a very practical thing. I mean, my sales team is expected to sell my product. Why do they need to know how much money I'm spending on advertising? Because if I'm spending more or if I'm spending less, that should not affect their work, right? They are they're expected to continue to do what they're supposed to do, which is to go to the market and sell the product, right? Does it make sense, everyone? What I'm trying to tell you, why we will always have silos and different files and different people who have access to different level of restriction?
Yes, sir. But
Makes sense? Okay. Now that is the reason we have a separate file, but that creates a problem for us, right? Because I have subcategory here, but I can't make a dashboard if the category is in a different file. So what should we do? I will connect to that new Excel file, which is this one, right? So let me close the Excel and I will connect to the Excel file. That is very simple. I will go back to Power BI. I will click on Excel workbook. This time we are not selecting a folder. We are just selecting one Excel workbook, right? Let's do that. And in the Excel workbook, what are we selecting? I will go to desktop, MDI, files, Power BI, and only the category file, right? And go to open. Select the sheet and go to, tell me which one should we select, load or transform data?
So since we are combining it with the 3 sheets, I think transform data will be the.
Okay, what do you
best
think will
option.
happen if I select load?
It will just load it like we did previously. Like there will be just another table right below the 3
Right.
sheets we have.
So there is really very little difference between load and transform. Let me explain what I mean by that. If I go to transform, it will directly take me to Power Query where I can make changes to it, right? If I go to load, Also, it will go to Power Query, but it will go to Power Query and save and apply. So it will take me directly to Power BI. So which is a better step? Typically, if you go to transform, it takes you to Power Query so that you can see the data, make changes, make sure that it is working perfectly before you apply those changes, right? But it doesn't matter because even if you select load, right, which you were not supposed to do, you were not supposed to load because I want to make some changes to it. How do I go back to Power Query now? What do I select? Please remember, from the Power BI window, if I want to go back to Power Query, we go to transform.
Transform
It's
data.
the same thing, right? It makes no difference. Now you notice I have a new file called sheet1. Let me just change that. I will call it my category, right? Now you notice here that there are some issues with the data. So you will notice that there is a black color here. I will tell you what that is. You will notice that everything is capital, which is not correct. Because in my sales data, all the subcategories are like this. Do you see this? Only the first letter is capitalized. In the category, everything is uppercase. But I told you earlier that the case is not is going to create a problem, right? In Excel, it doesn't matter usually, but in Power Query, the case has to match. If there is a capital T, it has to be a capital T, right? Also, there are these headers which are not coming properly. So we have to fix the headers as well, right? So there are a few changes we have to make, and I'll tell you how to do that. Once we make the changes, I will also tell you how to connect the category with the sales data. Because right now in the sales data, we only have the subcategory. We don't know the category. So we want to merge both the files like a VLOOKUP, which I'll be teaching you how to do, right? Let's take a small break at this point. We'll keep the file open. Don't change anything. We'll come back and continue with this, right? Okay, so it is, what time is it? It's 11:27. We can resume sharp at 23:38. Okay, 10-minute break. In any case, our sessions always get extended a bit, right? So sharp 10-minute break, everyone. Let's rejoin at 11:38. All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's close this. Okay, so quickly recap what we have done so far. We have taken our category data, and I spoke to you about why the data set is different, right? So I hope you're convinced about that. The problem with the file is that we have this, one is this black color that is coming. The heading is not correct. There are these null values and everything is capital, which should not be the case. So first of all, tell me why, what does this black color mean? Why is there only a green color here and there is a green and a black color here?
That there are some null cells over there.
Absolutely. So if you take your mouse, it will show you that out of this column of 18 records, 4 of them are valid, which means there is a value in it, and 14 are empty, which is 78% of the data. That is what the color signifies. Okay. What about the heading? Why is the heading column 1 and column 2? Anyone? Why is the heading column 1 and column 2 and not category and subcategory?
Sir, I think in the Excel file, it did not start from A1, cell A1.
It did. It did. In the Excel, it did start from E1.
Okay.
I can show it to you once just to confirm. It did start on A1, right? So what could be the reason? I'll give you a hint, okay? All the data in my file is a text value. Now, can you tell me why it is category and subcategory in the first 2 and column 1 and column 2 in the heading? Look at my hint. All the data in the 2 columns is a text value. That is why the heading is not coming properly. What does that mean?
Sir, I think Power BI has, Power BI understand it as values only, not heading.
Yes, yes. So what is happening is that category and subcategory, the 2 values, right? Category and subcategory, the 2 words. We know that it is not a part of the data. It is supposed to be the heading, right? For example, where we had row ID, order date, ship date, like this. But the problem is that it is not able to detect it because everything below it is also a text value, furniture, table, bookcases. So it doesn't know if it is a heading or if it is a part of the data, correct? Okay, that is the problem. So how do we fix that? Because it's a very common problem that will happen. There is a button called use first row as headers. If you can see this, use first row as headers. Right? So let's do that. When I click on use first row as headers, you will notice that the first row will get promoted. So the first row will come to the heading, category and subcategory, like this. Right? Any question on this? Anyone? All good? All right. Now let's see how to fill up the null values. We know that furniture should come in these 3 cells and office supplies should come in these 8 cells and technology should come in these 3 cells. How do we do that? Simply, this is very simple. You have to do a right click, then you go to fill and then you select down. Because that is what we want to do, right? We want to fill the values down, right? So right click, fill and down. Right? So it is that simple. We do right click, fill and down, and you notice the values come here. Can you tell me what is the final step that we have to do? I'm giving you a hint here. C is capital HAIRS. So what is it that we have to do? Anyone? We have to convert everything into what?
Lowercase.
Not lowercase, because the
Sentence.
first,
I mean the sentence.
yeah. So we either call it a sentence case or we call it a proper case, right? It depends on the tool that you're working on. So I will go to category. It's very simple. We select both the columns, and all you have to do is right click and then say change. Transform, and then you select. Here it is called capitalize each word, but you get the point, right? So we say capitalize each word. So now you notice that only the O and the S is capital, everything else is lowercase. So one more time, right click, transform, and capitalize each word like this. So that's the beauty of Power Query, right? Like in Excel, also you can do these things. Cut, paste, sort, filter, equal to, but you don't have to do any of that. Everything I've shown you till now, did we write any formula? No. All we did was right click and we had the options, or we went to the ribbon and we had the options, right? Any questions so far?
So at the last, how did you make it a proper case? I was doing on my sheet, so I couldn't see that.
Yeah, so we just selected both the columns, right click, transform, and then capitalize each word. Right? All good so far? Okay, now let's come to complete sales. And can you tell me what we are trying to do here? What do we want? Anyone? What do we want to do? We have the subcategory here, and we want to do what? Anyone? What is it that we would want to do here?
Sir, we want to add the category column.
Correct. Now in Excel, you would have done a VLOOKUP, correct? Here we do something called a merge query. Can somebody tell me the difference between append and merge? Just in a simple language, what is the difference between append and merge? I will also give you a hint, right? So this is a append, right? And this is a merge. So I'm giving you a hint here, everybody. So what is the difference between append and merge? At least try. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. What do you think the difference is?
Sir, append is to add the files vertically and merge is to horizontal.
Yeah. So append means that we are adding what? We are adding more. If there are 10 rows and there are 5 rows below it, what would I say? I'm adding more rows, right?
Rows,
And what is the merge? We are adding more
columns.
columns, correct? So when I added my historical and below that I added the current, what were we doing? that was an append, right? Because we were adding more records or adding more rows. What is a merge? Merge means that we have 22 columns, but we have 22 columns here, but I'm adding one more column to make it 23 column. That is called a merge. Now, these terms that I'm explaining to you, these are fundamentals of database management, right? So if you Google merge versus append, it is not specific to Power BI. These are fundamental concepts in data science, data analytics. So whether you work on Python, R, JavaScript, SQL, you will have the same concept that you will have to study. Any database management system, right? Right? So an append means you're adding more rows, merge means you're adding more columns, right? Like this. So if I show you in SQL, okay, I'm not sure how to show it in SQL. Hold on. We actually call it a join in SQL. You have these different types of joins available. Join is basically a merge, where you're merging two tables. Like here we have an A and a B, and you're merging both of them, right? And if you're doing an append in SQL, let me just try to show you a nice example. Just give me a moment. I'm not an expert SQL user, so I'm thinking about what would be the right way to show you, okay? Just work with me for a moment. Union, right? So we call it a union. In fact, in Dax also we call it a union. A union is the same as an append, which means we have 5 rows, 10 rows. We are making 15 rows. That is called a union, right? Right, so the terms change, but the concept remains exactly the same. So if you notice, I hope this is clear, everybody. I have table A, which has 1, 2, 3, 4. I have table B, which has 3, 4, 5, 6. So when I do a union of both the tables, what will happen? I will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So that is what I've been telling you since the beginning, that learnings are transferable. Once you learn fundamentally what is a merge and an append and what are you trying to do, you are able to do the same thing on other tools as well. So I've just taught you how to do the same thing on SQL as well. Right? Okay, let's see how to do it. So we go to merge queries. The button is just above the append queries. So we go to merge queries. And now it is saying that, fine, Havish, there are 2 tables that you have. The complete sales table, that is table number 1, which has 22 columns in it. And after the 22 columns, I would like to add another column, which is the 23rd column. How do we do that? So I select sales, I select my category. And now it says select the matching columns. So what would be the matching columns, everyone? In both the tables? Subcategory and subcategory, correct? So those are the 2 columns that are matching. Now there are different types of joins available. We'll not get into detail here because it's beyond the scope of this training. If you're interested, you can Google it. I was planning a video on this as well. It should be live in some time. But for now, we will not change anything. We will just say left outer, which is the default, and I click on OK. Now, the way merge works is that it doesn't merge only the column. It merges the entire table. But tell me,
I got a problem here.
Tell me.
Sir, it's coming like select the same number of columns from both the visible tables to continue.
Yeah, so you have to make sure that only 1 column has been selected in both the tables.
Yes,
one
sir.
here and 1 here. You must have selected 2 columns somewhere.
No, okay, sir. Actually,
or you might not have selected it.
Yes, yes.
One of those.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
All good? All
Yes,
right.
sir.
So now you notice that the entire table has been merged. But tell me something, do I need both the columns from the category? From the category table, do I need both the columns category and subcategory?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right? We only need the category, right? Because I already have the subcategory. There is no point of creating another column with a subcategory. So I will say only select the category. Also deselect this option so that the name of the column will be only category, not the table name, right? So I'm only selecting category. I deselect this option, and now you notice you have the category. I mean, to simplify it, I would say that we have done a VLOOKUP, basically. That's what we have done, right? So now we have the category with us as well. And you can also move it to put it next to the subcategory like this. So we have the subcategory and the category. Cool. Any questions so far?
Sir, in the category file that we have extracted from the Excel file, so there it's showing that there are 17 distinct subcategories.
Correct.
But in the complete cells, I have 15 distinct subcategories.
No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Okay, sir, let me check. Sir, I have 15. I don't know how.
Share the screen. Let's check.
Okay, sir.
Oh,
Sir,
I'm
you have
sorry.
enough.
Yeah. Try again.
Sir,
Click on that load more button, no? At the bottom. Is it okay now?
maybe.
Yeah, it is 17. What do you mean? Maybe you can just count.
Sir, it's 15. It's showing 15.
Click on the drop down once again. Yeah, don't look at that. Just go to load more. I'll tell you what to do. Click on load more and then click on OK as well. Okay, go back to the drop down once. 1 second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Just click on load more once and just count it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Just scroll down. Yeah, there are 17. I don't know why that is coming as 50. Just press OK. Let's try something. Go to view.
Refresh.
Yeah, just go to refresh as well. Refresh preview. No? Okay, go to view and remove the option called column profile. Also distribution, remove that. Column distribution. Keep it once again, column distribution. Save and apply. Just go to home, save and apply and open transform data once again. No, not from there, not from there. Go to home, first go to home and then close and apply. Close and apply, correct. And then open transform data once again. And just again go back to transform data and see if it works. No, it might be a bug. I mean, you can see that there are 17. We can actually see there are 70.
Yes, sir.
It might be a bug. You know, there are lots of bugs in Power Query. So good observation, but don't really worry about it too much. I'll give you one other way of checking it. Just right click on subcategory. Say remove duplicates. Now you can clearly see that there are 17 of them, isn't it? correct?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Now
sir.
just cancel the last step, please. The remove duplicate. Here it says 17 distinct. On the right side, in the applied steps, here. Just
Okay.
cancel the step. So yeah, I mean, it's a bug,
Yes, sir.
so
It's a
don't
bug.
worry about it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Cool. Any other question, anyone? Let me share my screen once again. All good? All right. So let's quickly recap what all we have done. We have combined from folder. We did some cleaning. So we did split, we did merge columns. I showed you how to take the category. So we did transform, we uh, removed, we did a fill down, we promoted the headers, we also converted into proper case. After that, we also did a merge so that both the tables are merged together. Now we have 23 columns because we have the subcategory as well as the category, right? Like this. Just take a minute and tell me if you have any questions, anyone. Any questions? All good? Okay, so we have done a few examples on Power Query. Obviously, there are many other things that Power Query can do. But hopefully this gave you a glimpse of what Power Query can do for you, right? Just to show you how much there is in Power Query, don't do it. I just want to show it to you. I just go to add column and I will create a custom column. So I want to show you the number of methods and functions available. Just see this. Can you see this? It's a unbelievably long list. There are like over 1,000 things available in it. Look at this. You see this, everyone? It's a really long list. As a matter of fact, you can even run Python using Power Query. So I can run a Python script directly inside the Power Query window. So this is just to show you that what I've shown you today is just a very small glimpse into what Power Query can do for you. It's a very powerful tool and definitely something you guys should be learning, right? So if anybody asks you in an interview, what is the difference between Power Query and DAX, what would you say? Now that we have done both these things, in a very simple one-line answer, what would you say? Anyone?
So that basically DAX works on tables mainly, and this works on.
No, that's not true.
And also, sir, we are not we have not. I mean, we are not using any formulas here in DAX.
But you can. You
Yes.
can. It's not that we can't use formulas. I just showed you how to do it, right? So I can
Yes,
go
sir.
to custom column and I can write my own formula here. For example, if I want to do text dot length of my, let's say, category, right? It will tell me what is the, okay, I'm not sure why that's not working. Just give me a second.
I mean to say,
Oh, I'm
sir,
sorry.
we can also work without formula in Power Query, but in DAX we have to use the formulas.
Good try, but that is also not true because even in DAX, you do have something called quick measure. So you can create auto-generated formulas. Like in Power Query, we were able to right click and do it, right? So here also you have these shortcuts to do it.
Okay, sir.
Try more. What do you think is the difference? Think of a more simple difference. Tell me, when you're working, if I say there are three things, right? There is loading, cleaning, transforming the data is one part. Creating the data visualization is one part. And then writing formulas to generate more insight is the third part. Which is the first part in your process? The preparation of the data, data visualization, or the writing of the formulas? If there is a workflow, what is the first thing that you do when you're working on a project?
Data preparation, cleaning, and loading the data.
You transform, connect, extract, load the data, isn't it? That is the Power Query. So Power Query is where you prepare your data in the first place. What you would do with the SQL, what you would do with the pandas, what you would do with the NumPy, right? That is the data preparation. After that is when you create the visuals, which is on data visualization. But after you create some visuals and you want to generate more insights, that is where you need DAX. Like on a visual, I can show you a line chart with my order date and sales. But if I want to show you a year-over-year change, then I have to use DAX, right? So the answer would be that Power Query is the first step of the workflow, which is used for data cleaning, wrangling, preparation. Data visualization is for creating the dashboard. And to make dashboards more impactful, to be able to run formulas and derive more insights, we use DAX, right? Great. So we are done with Power BI as well. I think we have covered, I think we've touched upon everything. I don't think there's any big area that I've completely left out. Tomorrow, of course, we'll be doing one session on Tableau. So yeah, any questions? Good. Great. I think then we can call it a day and we will meet tomorrow at the same time.